I'm going to turn it over to Luke and Will to get us started.
Great. Hello, everyone. This is going to be our South Orange PAC training. Like Margaret said, my name is William Lugine. I'm one of the system administrators here. And below me, if you could see it that way, we have Luke Patterson. He's also the other system administrator. And we're going to teach you about the public access catalog that your librarian will now have access to once you join the Buckles Consortium. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can kind of go through everything that we're going to show today. And me and Luke will kind of pass off through during the time that we're presenting today. All right. Can you guys see okay? All right.
Looks good on my end, Will.
Nice. All right. So when you're on your web browser, there's going to be a few things that you can do in order to get access to the catalog that you can let your patrons know about. First up, we're just going to go to the Buckles website. So if I type in bccls.org, you'll be greeted by the Buckles website right here. This is kind of our hub for a lot of the information that we have within the consortium. The main thing that you're going to want to be clicking, though, is if you want to get access to the catalog, there is a link that's available on this website. In order to get access to it, you'll notice here in the top right corner, there's a bunch of information for the catalog. If you click Catalog Home, that'll bring you straight to the catalog here. As you can see here, you have the website URL, which is catalog.buckles.org. This is our live version of the catalog where any patrons that want to be able to use it, they'll want to go to this one. So you would always want to direct them to this one in this case. For the sake of training purposes, however, we're going to be using a test environment. You guys also have the availability or the access to this website, so you can be able to use it to train if you would need to. But it's called testcatalog.buckles.org. And then you just want to put /Polaris after it so that it can be able to load into the correct page. Once you click here, you'll notice that it's very similar to the live catalog. So based on our previous trainings, there was a better distinction of that. So just make sure that you're taking a look at the URL if you are using the catalog versus the test catalog in order to make sure you're using the correct website. With that being said, we can go ahead and get started with a lot of the training aspects of the catalog right here now. So first off, we have highlighting by library. This is going to be a really important thing for patrons that want to receive specific items or materials through your library, and we'll kind of go into that and more in a little bit. But for now, if you go right here, there's a little menu button here that says switch to another library. If you go ahead and click that down, it's going to be a drop-down menu, and it has all of the different libraries within the consortium. From here, you can select your particular library or any library within the consortium. That'll help you with highlighting specific items or materials within the library. So in this example, we're going to just scroll down, and we have here South Orange Public Library. So if I go ahead and click South Orange, you'll notice that it'll bring us to a new page. South Orange Public Library is displayed at the top. So now we know which library that we're highlighting by, and we can kind of go from there in that case. Next up, we have the language options. So if we just skip this for a second, we're going to go to language. This provides you with another drop-down menu as well. So if I go ahead and click that, you'll notice that a bunch of different languages here are showing up. The catalog defaults to English, but let's say, for example, I want to change the catalog to Spanish. You would click the button Español, and from there, you'll notice here that a bunch of the different tabs and the verbiage on the website is now changing to the Spanish language. So this will be helpful for any sort of accessibility issues for any patrons that don't speak certain languages. They can be able to use this drop down in order to select it. In terms of the options that we have English, Korean, Russian, Spanish, and then French. So a few different options here when it comes to that. I'm going to go ahead and click back to English so we can go ahead and continue with that. Next up, we have large text. So this is essentially just an option that you can go ahead and click. Again, this is an accessibility feature. If we go ahead and click large text, it zooms in and kind of enlarges the screen. So if there's anybody that has trouble with reading all of the materials or the verbiage that's on the website, they can use this as well. So it's a really helpful tool for anybody that has maybe issues with sight. So that's something that they can do. If you want to return back to the regular default text view, you could just go ahead and click the regular text button from where the large text was, and it'll return you back to the way the website normally looked like. So that's a really good accessibility feature. All right. So with that being said, we're going to move on to the next part of the website, which is going to most likely be the most important part, and that's searching. So there's two different types of searches that we're going to go over. First up, we have the quick search. Quick search is just this little bar here. So if a patron wants to search for a particular material or title within your library, they can go ahead and type in a specific word in there to be able to search, similar to any search engine like Google or Yahoo. This most likely is going to be the most used kind of searchability option in the catalog. So we can go ahead and just show you that. For example, let's say if I'm looking for a material that's about dogs, I can go ahead and type in the word dogs. And from there, it'll give me a bunch of different options and suggestions here that we can fill in. For now, I'm just going to leave it at dogs and then go ahead and click the search button. And once it loads, it'll bring me to a screen of results that has a bunch of the different dogs here. So that's your quickest way of being able to search for something and get the materials and results that you need. With that being said, we're going to go on to the next one. So if you notice here, there's a bunch of different tabs at the top that we're going to go over throughout this session. But the first one that we have here is search. So the reason why there's a distinction between this search dropdown and the quick search is because this one has a bunch of different options that you can use. So if I go ahead and click this search dropdown menu, you'll see that there's a bunch more options here compared to the quick search that we had. First off, I'm going to go ahead and click keyword. Now, keyword is similar to the way that quick search was. It doesn't matter the order that you're trying to type in specific letters, but it's going to look for the particular keyword in a title or in a material in order to make sure that it can be able to find the results that you need. So I'm going to use dogs as our example again. I'm going to hit the search button. And as you can see, a lot of the results that we had before are a little similar to what we did before when we did the quick search. So this is going to, again, be a really helpful tool if you want just a quick rundown of all the different results that are available to you when you're trying to search through the catalog. So keep that in mind. That's going to be really helpful for you. All right. Next up, we have the browse option. If I go ahead and click browse, there's a few different options here. It looks slightly different from what the keyword search looks like. And what you can do with this is, and why it's important, is that in this case, order does matter. So if you're trying to look for something a little bit more specific and trying to browse the materials that are there, based on a topic, based on a title, based on an author, you can have that option to do that. In this case, we're going to be searching for an author. So we have this little drop down menu here, and if I go ahead and click it, there's a bunch of different options here that we can search by. By default, it's searching for title, but since we're looking for an author, I'm going to go ahead and click author as our option. From there, we're going to specifically type in our author by last name, first name, so we can get a better search when it comes to everything. So the author that we're going to be searching for today is Cesar Millan. With that being said, I'm going to type in Milan, comma, Caesar. Now that I have my search ready, I'm going to click the search button. And from there, you'll see here that there's new browse headings that we can be able to select from. So in this case, we're looking for Cesar Millan as our browse heading, and he's right here at the top. So if we click this button, it'll now show us results for different Cesar Millan books. And the reason why we're searching for him today is because he has books about dogs and lessons from the PAC in this case in different languages. So these are going to be really helpful for us in this case. And it will be helpful for anything that we're needing to look for if it's one of his books. So that's really helpful when it comes to using the browse option. Again, it's mostly going to be used for looking for, I guess, particular or general options that we're looking for when it comes to a title. Next up, we have the phrase option. So I'm going to go ahead and click phrase as our option. The phrase option is a search that needs to be in sequential order in order for it to work. And I'll kind of give you an example of that right now. So in the previous sections, we were searching by the word dogs. If we want to look for something more particular, this would be a great way to kind of get it more exact as well. So instead of looking for dogs, we're going to look for something called rescue dogs. So if I type in rescue dogs and then hit search, you'll notice here that the results are now changed, and it's looking into every single material with rescue dogs in that particular order. So you'll notice here the title says rescue dog, so it's bringing it up. It also has it in the summaries the same way. In this case, we have only the title here, and it's bringing that up. It's also looking for any mention of rescue and dogs within the summary. This one says the 12 dogs, so it doesn't even have rescue dogs in the title. But then if you, again, look into the summary, you'll see that there's a lot more mention of rescue dogs being shown in here. So it's going to start to bring it up. So that's going to be a really cool option if you want to be able to have more specificity towards what you're searching for and what the results are going to be. So that is a really cool thing there. Next up, we're going to go to search again, and we have the exact search. So this is the most specific search that you're going to be able to utilize this with. We're going to use an example of having a title search. So from here, we can click the search by and then click title. You'll notice here that author showed up first there, but we can always switch that. From there, we're going to type in a specific title that's going to exactly search for that title that we're looking for. In this case, our title is going to be Balto. So if I type in Balto here and then hit search, you'll see now that it's only looking for books for Balto. You can even see when it comes to the results, it's a lot more smaller. So we only have 5 results here. And that's because it's only looking for any title that has Balto within it. So that'll be a really helpful tool that you can be able to utilize if you're looking for something very, very specific. In terms of the results, it can also be in an alternate title field as well. So that's going to be really helpful for you to look for as well. And it's important to always make sure that you're just taking a look to see if there's any sort of option here, any sort of book that you're looking for. It really gives you a lot more kind of narrowing down when it comes to your results in that case. Next up, we have advanced. So if I go to the search option here and then click the advanced option, you'll notice here that there's a bunch of different fields that we can now utilize. The reason why it's called the advanced search is so you can extremely narrow down what you particularly need. And from there, we can kind of find the particular books that are needed in the catalog. In this section, we're going to just explain something particular with this example. First up, we're going to change this field. So this is a drop-down menu. If you see any fields drop-down menus here, you can go ahead and click that and choose the particular like option or field that you would like to search by. In this case, we're going to click title. And what this means is that we're going to search for any title with whatever word that we put in this field. In the example that we have here, we have lessons. So I'm going to type in lessons here. And then when it comes to this option right here, if you click it, it's a drop-down menu, which features and, or not. So if we want to look for a particular item and then add something to it, you would use the and. Or if you want to look for items, that have lessons, for example, or has something else, then you would select the or option. And then not is also an option as well if you don't want to search for a particular field that you're looking for. And or are usually the most used options, but not is also there for you as well. So to kind of illustrate that for you, if we select author as our type field, we can do, we're going to be searching for an item that has lessons in the title and has the author. In this case, we're going to use Caesar Milan again in order to illustrate that. So if I type in Milan, Caesar, that kind of shows up with our field there. So now you can see this is how the search is kind of building up when it comes to advanced searches. And then lastly, we're going to change this one and select subject. So we didn't mention this before, but subject is almost self-explanatory a bit. It's just referencing the particular genre or the type of subject that the book is referencing. In this case, we're going to set the subject to dogs so that we can, again, narrow it down more. This is going to be a book with the title Lessons, the author Milan Caesar, and the subject of dogs. Now that we have the advanced search all set up, we can go ahead and click the Go button. And as you can see here, again, a very narrowed down search in which we see that this book is only searching up, or these results that we typed in are all going to be searching up books that have to do with dogs, have the with the word lessons within the title, and the author is Cesar Millan. So really, really helpful if you're looking for something specific that you can narrow down with, and that'll be really helpful for any patrons or even staff members that are looking for particular materials within the library. Lastly, we have Boolean. So if we go ahead into the search drop-down menu, you'll notice that there's a Boolean option. If we go ahead and click Boolean, slightly different. The difference between Boolean is that you would essentially have to type in all of the parameters that you would need in order to find the particular book that you want. It takes a little bit of fiddling around with and kind of getting used to, but over time, it'll be a little bit easier to kind of understand the specific things that you need to type in order to again, narrow down your search. So this is even, essentially, it's almost more advanced than the advanced search. So if I wanted to look for an item that had the title of lessons, like we just explained before, I would type in TI, which is going to be our title field, equals, and then the name of the title that we want to search for. So in this case, we're going to look for lessons. Next up, we have author, and we want to have the title of lessons and look for the author that is attached to that title. So we're going to type in and, then do AU for author when it comes to our field. We're going to hit equals, and then this time we're going to just type in the author's last name, which is Milan. And then lastly, if we're looking for the subject of dogs, like we just explained before, we can go ahead and type and. Subject is going to be denoted by the two letters SU. And then we're going to go ahead and click equals and then type in dogs. Once we have that Boolean search set up in this field, if we go ahead and click the search button, it'll again give us similar results to what we just did before in the advanced search, because this is essentially what our advanced search is. So if you don't want to go through the hassle of maybe filling in those fields and typing it in, you can just have a more manual version of this by using the Boolean search in order to specifically look for any material that you would need. So again, this is a little bit more advanced. Over time, again, you would just have to kind of memorize and understand the different two-letter headings here in order to find something particular that you're looking for. But that's going to be really important to remember and kind of keep in mind when you're using Boolean search. All right. So now that we have that all set up, we've kind of gone through all of the searches. Next up, I'm just going to show you how to do a limit by. And that's going to be really important as well. So if we go to the search option and go back to keyword, we can show you what this limit by field is. And that's going to be really helpful for looking for particular things. We're going to use the keyword of dogs again as an example. And if I go into the limit by field before I hit the search button, I can search for particular things and kind of narrow it down even more. This is going to be really helpful for patrons that want to limit by their materials for a particular library. And this is where changing our library comes into play. Since we changed and switched our library to be South Orange Public Library, the limit by options now change for us. And you'll see here that we can be able to search for the material dogs based on South Orange's collection. So there's two different options here as well. You have all items, which will search for every item regardless of its availability. And then if you click here, it'll choose any of the items that are available within the library and that the patron will have access to right now. So those are going to be really important distinctions if the patron just wants to get a good view of the entire collection based on their search versus if the item is available actually. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and click all items, hit search. And once this finishes loading up, you'll see that there's some results here that are reminiscent of the collection for South Orange. If we click available items, however, this results number might change in this case because maybe some of these items are taken out. And you'll see here, we only have 2 items available right now in South Orange that have reference to dogs. So that can be a really helpful tool for patrons as well. Lastly, I just wanted to mention this as well. You can also use these other options in order to limit by specific material types. So, for example, let's say a patron wants to find any movies or any TV shows in reference to dogs. They can go ahead and click movies and TVs. And once I hit the search button, it's going to give us results for anything that has a recording, anything that's a movie about dogs that they can be able to see and use there. So that's going to be a really helpful tool for them as well. If they want to look for a particular material type, you can use that limit by option as well. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Luke, and he's going to kind of go more in depth with how the search results works.
All right, everyone. So like Will said, we're going to now go into filtering search results. So starting off on the test catalog again, you can see we're right here.
Sorry, I just want to pause and see if there were any questions from Will's first section. Just
Sure.
keeping in mind that they do have to walk to the computer to type their questions in the chat. So let's just give it a minute, see if there's any questions that anyone has to chat in for Will, and then we'll move on.
Great.
Of course, you can all hold your questions to the end if you prefer. That's fine too. But just giving it a minute to see if anyone has anything to chat in for questions. I don't see anything yet. So yeah, we can move forward, and then no questions of this section. Okay, great. So let's move ahead. Thanks, Will.
Okay. Great. So now we're going to go into once we have the search done, how to filter those results. So again, starting out of the test catalog, we're going to switch to South Orange. Okay, and the first thing I want to show you is how, just like Google, there can be spelling corrections, kind of like a did you mean feature. So say I was searching for dog. You can see right here, it will say, did you mean, and then it will give me links to click on. And if I click more, it will say, did you mean digs, dogs, or DOS? So that's helpful if you're putting something in and you have a spelling error, it will kind of give you ideas of what you can switch to. Okay, so right now I have, I'm going to go to the correction of dogs, and we're going to search here. We're going to switch it to title. And then say I was interested in new books about dogs, and I wanted to limit to a publication date of this year or next year. I can go more advanced search options, and it will give me this whole menu where I can start filtering the results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select 2023, and then if you hold Control, you can click another year as well. So I'm going to then click 2024, set search options. Now you can see from what we previously had, we're down to 411 results. So it's narrowed things down quite a bit. Now, in terms of going through these results, there's different ways you can do it. The first part is it will show default to 10 results per page. And you can click this drop down and go up to 100. So if I wanted to go up to, say, 100, it's now going to show the first 100 results. And at the bottom on the right, just kind of like with other search engines, you're going to see a page numbers here. So just like with other search engines, you can kind of click here to go to the different pages, and the single arrow will go to the next one. So this will go to the second page. And let me go back to like something like 20, so it's easier to get back to. We'll go down, and then this double arrow will go to the last page. So now I'm on the last page here. That's kind of how you can navigate through your results. I usually like to have it set to a higher number and then just scroll down, but it's really up to your preference on how you want to do it. Now that we have all these results, on the top right here, you can see a sort, and it sorts order of the search results initially by most popular, but you can click the drop down and you can see there's relevance, author, title, call number, all these other options. So we're going to search by title. And searching by title, it will give us numbers first, then alphabetically down. You can see there is an A, and then the B's, etc. All right, so now we have this search in the order we want. We have it by title, and we have it filtered down to just new books, 2023, 2024. Now, what I'm going to show you is all these results are showing the brief display. So there's two different types of display. There's the brief display, which is default, and then you can see here there's full display. So I'm going to go over the different parts of the display. So you can see here under the cover image, there's a book graphic, and that pretty much is going to show you what the material type is. And if you click it, it's going to bring up the MARC record. So a lot of times, if you are unsure why a search came up in your search results, you can go into the MARC record and see, oh, here in this line, it had something related to the search, and that's why it came up in the search results. The cover image here above the book icon is provided by Synthetics. So with Synthetics, if you ever see a incorrect cover image, you can just submit a support ticket, and then we'll reach out to Synthetics and get that corrected. I'm going to go down through here, and you can see how the material type, the icon changes. So here's DVD. And I don't see large print here, but if there was a large print, it would show LP. So this image here kind of gives you a quick at a glance of what the material type is.
Luke, I'm not sure if your results are limited by title. I believe when you clicked advanced options, it removed the search by. So you had originally selected it, but I think you had to hit search for it to actually go into it.
Okay. All right, yeah, you're right. That's right. All right, so now we're down to the 72 results. And the next thing to look at is in the brief display, it will show at the bottom here under summary, local availability and system availability. And what that means is, going back up to the top, if your library's set to South Orange here, or any library you set it to, the local availability will show that library's available copies. So you can see here, South Orange does not have any copies of this book, 10 Dogs. And then system availability is going to show the entire consortium. You can see we have 10 available copies of 18 total. So next up on the right, you'll see these three buttons. The first one is availability, and that kind of mirrors down here. But what this button will do is it will show more details. So if I click it, a pop-up window comes up, and this is going to show all the different kind of statuses of all the items here. So you can see the call number here, the shelf location, status, start date, and then type. Okay, so I'm going to then go into full display, and that's going to show you more details about all these search results.
Just one thing to note, Luke, with availability, if your library is highlighted at the top, South Orange is going to be right at the top of that availability table. You won't have to scroll all the way down to find South Orange.
Yep. So the cool thing about the search results on full display is you can, instead of seeing results in a list, you can see each result on one full page. You can see here it's displaying 1 of 72, and I can hit this next button and scroll through the full results. So if you like kind of searching that way, that's an option that's useful. So on the full display, we're going to have obviously more information. So this is all information on this title here. And if I scroll down here, there's going to be a map it button. And if I click this, it's going to bring up Google Maps, and it shows all the different copies in the consortium kind of over the map. So if there's the yellow flag right here, that's going to show available copies. And then the blue one without the number shows copies at this location that are currently unavailable. And then the number in the yellow shows the number of copies at the location that are available. You can see how all these ones in yellow, there's one copy available. And if I click one, it will give me more information. So it says the library, so MAWA, it will give the directions, the address, the phone number, and then it will say 1 of 2 available. So this is really useful. If I click this one right here, at Ridgewood, there is no available one, but they have a copy, so that's why it's showing up in blue. And in the full display here, any of these arrows, you can kind of click them and they will minimize or expand. So I'm going to minimize the map. And the next up is large cover image. And again, this just shows the cover image in a much larger format. Again, this is provided by Synthetics. So if this is wrong, just like with a small cover image, just submit a support ticket and we'll reach out to Synthetics. Next up, we have availability. And here you can place an item level request. This is similar to the table that came up in the brief display as a pop-up, but in here it's embedded in the page. And if I were to click any of these red icons here with the arrow, this is going to place a request at the item level. So say I wanted this exact copy, I click this, and it will prompt me to log in with my library card to place an item level hold request. One thing I'm going to show you real quick is another thing that comes up, but this is only on the real catalog. So if I go to the non-test catalog, so this is the live catalog, and I'm just going to quickly show an example. I go into this John Grissman book, I go to full display, and I go back down to availability. You can see here next to this item level request, there's a phone icon. And if I click the phone icon, it will come up with this pop-up where I can put in my phone number and it will text me the information. So I click send here, and it just texted me the call number, and I just got an alert on my phone with that. So that's something that's really useful to use, but again, it's not on the test catalog, so that's why I brought up the live catalog. Okay, so going back to the test catalog, I'm going to keep going down here. I'm going to minimize availability. And next we have more things to look at. So explore summary and professional reviews. Again, this is just a summary. You can keep reading more about it. And then we have reviews right here, Kirkus Reviews, Horn Book Magazine, and so forth. And again, so this is all provided by Syndetics. And if there's something missing here, again, just submit a support ticket and we'll reach out to Syndetics for you. And then the last one here, we have MARC record. If I click that, the MARC record comes up embedded in the page. In the brief display, you can have it come up as a pop-up window. Okay, so I'm going to click return to list. And now I'm back on my search results. So another thing we can do is now that we've limited by our search by title, and then we've set the advanced search options to 2023 or 2024. The next thing we're going to do is on the left here, we have these search facets. So you can see the first one is narrow down your search, and it says by library. And you can see it says local here. This is showing South Orange has one of these 72 items. And like Margaret said, it's showing South Orange first because up here we're at the South Orange location in the catalog. And then for the rest of the results, it's going to do them in order of copies available. So you can see there's 22 at MAWA, 19 at Paramus. I click more, and it will kind of scroll down all the way higher to lower. Okay, so next up, we can also then narrow it down by type of material. Again, these search results go higher to lower. So you can see books are first because there's 63, and then it goes down. There's the lower numbers of different material types. Next up, we have subjects. After subjects, we have authors. And then we have series. And like with all these, it's going to show the first, 3 or 4, and then there's going to be a more button, and you can click more, and it will show the full list. So if you don't see, the author right away, always remember just to click more, and it will show all the authors. All right, and then publication date, as you can see here, there's only one book for 2024 because that hasn't happened yet. It's coming out, and then we have 71 for 2023. With the publication date, though, it's going to show chronological order. So you can see the 2024 is showing one ahead of the 71 in 2023. Next, we have popularity. And then finally here, we have language. And then down under this, we have related searches. And related searches, we have subjects, authors, and series. So this kind of prompts you to kind of continue the search. Once you get to this level, you can say, oh, hey, these are the related searches, and I'm going to go into these to get some more information. So now it's going to go back to Will, and he's going to talk about placing holds once you find the item you want to get a hold for. And first, we'll stop for any questions.
So if you have any questions, like Luke said, just put them in the chat. We'll hold off for a minute and just see if there's any questions on that section before Will moves ahead. All right, I think we're good to go. Of course, if a question does pop up, we will pause and address it, but we can move ahead, Will.
All right, great. Let me go ahead and share my screen again.
Okay, there is one question. So the question is, can we search by call number? You can browse by call number. So if you don't mind quickly, we'll just drop down the search and do browse. And drop down the title. So you can browse by call number, but that's it. So you can't do a keyword search by call number. But if you click that call number browse search, you can search for a specific call number and browse by it. So I don't know if you hit your back button, if you'll get your search back, Will, or if you just want to reconstruct it. Either way. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. All right, nice. Okay, so for our next section, we're going to just explain how to be able to place hold requests within the catalog. This is going to be really important for patrons and for staff members to know this as well. So if they want to set up any hold requests for a particular material type or material in the library, they can do so. So let's just go ahead and start with that. It's somewhat pretty simple process. When you do a search for a title or any sort of material, like we have here, we have dogs, we can be able to place a hold request on that. And you'll notice here, there's an option to be able to place the request. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click place request, and it'll bring me to a new screen where I'll have to enter in my library card number or my password in terms of my credentials. That's going to be really helpful to make sure that we can be able to apply the hold request on a particular library account. We have some other information here as well, so that the patron can read this. It says to receive your request at a locker, please choose your library's locker as the pickup location. And that's going to be really helpful if a patron wants to have the hold request be picked up at a locker location for particular libraries. Within this case, though, we're going to go ahead and use our test patron that we've used before, which is Bobby Tarantino. If I go ahead and click or type in the library card number here, this will be here as well. We'll kind of go into more in depth on how you can be able to change the username and make it more simple for the patron as well. But another important thing that I want to highlight is the password. In previous sessions, we've mentioned that we usually set up the password for the patron when creating their patron record. However, we do have the ability as staff members to get access to their account without needing their password. And this is essentially our override password. And in this case, I'm going to use it. So the password is for the patron. So the number 4 and then the patron. It's not going to show here, but everything is going to be in lowercase. And no matter what the password of the patron's account is, we can go ahead and click login, and then we'll be able to have access to it. So now that we've seemingly logged into our account, you'll notice here that a new screen shows up. We have the barcode of the patron showing up here with their last 4 digits being visible. And then you have the pickup library. This is really important to remember, but based on the patron's home library, it'll default for that pickup location. So in this case, Bobby's pickup or home library is Ho-Hocus, and that's why it defaults to this. However, you do have the ability to still click this drop-down menu, and it shows all the different pickup locations that are available within the consortium. So like I mentioned before, some libraries are going to have locker locations based on how we've kind of configured them, and they can go ahead and select any sort of option. So in this case, I'm going to click South Orange as our option, and it just immediately changes that for the pickup location. And then next up, you have this activation date field. This is going to be really important. Again, we kind of touched upon this in previous sessions, but the activation date is available for the patron if they know that they need a specific date in order to be able to pick something up. Let's say, for example, they're going to be on vacation for a month. They have the ability to change this, for example, to December 23rd first so that they have the time to be able to pick it up if they're not available. And that's a great way for them to kind of make sure that we don't have any hold requests that are being left at the library at any given time for a long period of time. So that'll be really helpful with that. So now that we've kind of mentioned all of this, I'm going to return back to our search results. Oop. Oh man, there we go. So let me just go ahead and quickly make those search results again. Just gonna do keyword, dogs, and then search by title, and then limit by all items in this case. All right, so this is a little bit different, but with that being said, now that we have the search results here, I just wanted to touch upon as well something we've mentioned in previous sessions, which is the difference between unrestricted cards versus restricted cards. We've mentioned in previous sessions before, but that there's a lot of limitations placed on a patron that has a restricted card account or patron code in order to make sure that patrons that live within a town and that have access to more materials within the consortium has that, whereas maybe a courtesy patron or a pay patron will only have access to your particular library. This is going to be really helpful to make that distinction for when it comes to the catalog as well. Unrestricted patrons have the ability to create any hold request or place any request on a material within the consortium. So Luke touched on it a bit before as well, but if there's an item that's not available within the consortium, so if I click all items here instead and hit search, let's say, for example, this item, this isn't available in South Orange. However, if the patron is a South Orange patron, they can still be able to place a request on it, even though it's not from their library. If it's a restricted card, however, the most important thing to remember with that is that they aren't allowed to place hold requests on the catalog at all. What would need to be done in this case is that usually the library would have, or a staff member would have to place the item on hold for that patron within Leap, in order to kind of make sure and kind of define specifically that they can't make any hold requests within the catalog. It's really helpful to keep that distinction so that, you know, restricted card patrons don't have access to more than what they should have. So always keep that in mind. Unrestricted patrons have the ability to place requests. Restricted patrons only can be able to place requests by the help of a staff member using Leap.
And the most important distinction there is that they need to use Leap because they need to only place the request on their own items. So if you have a courtesy or a pay patron, or even a rebel patron, you can only place requests for them on items that they have access to, which would be only South Orange items for pay and courtesy patrons, and only rebel library items for rebel patrons. So you would place item level requests on those items from your library only, or a rebel library only, for those patrons, and you would do that in Leap. That's why it's restricted, because in the catalog, it's going to get them a copy from anywhere. It's not going to be smart enough to know, oh, this is a courtesy patron, I have to pick South Orange's copy. It's not, you're not able to restrict it in that way in the catalog, so we just have turned off requesting entirely for those patrons, and staff members do have to assist them using Leap by placing item level requests on the library's own copies only.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Margaret. With that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Luke for our next section. But before we continue, does anybody have any questions?
Okay, no questions. So Luke, you can take it away.
All right. All right, so now we're going to get into a really great part of the catalog, which is being able to save searches and create lists. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to save a search. So we went through all this work to get the search the way we wanted it. We have publication date limited to this year and next year. We have search by title. We have the sorting and the way we want it. Then how do we save this? So up here on the left, there's a save search button. So if I click this, it's going to prompt me to log in. And then this is because searches can only be saved to the account. So I'm going to put in Bobby's card here. Okay, and then upon logging into the account, it's going to give me this prompt that is basically a disclaimer saying this feature is associated with your personal data and your Patron account. This data may be accessed by law enforcement personnel without your consent. Do you wish to continue? And I'm going to select yes. All right, so now I got up this area where I can save my search. So I'm going to save it as Bobby's dog fuck search. And it's going to have an area where you can email the results, email format, search frequency, and number of times to run. I'm going to save this search. It will say confirmation your search has been saved, and I'm going to return to search. So now you can see here in the account, it's going to have save searches here, and it's going to have an X button, and that's for deleting it. And then the play button in green is how you can run the search. So now that I have the save search, I'm going to run it. And it automatically brings me back to where we were in one click. Next up, I'm going to go over how to work with the lists. And we're going to do a working list. So you can see here with all these search results, there's this add to list here under place request. So I'm going to start adding some to a working list. And you can see I have working list option or new list. So I'm going to click working list. And upon doing that, it will show me the working list here with the items. And then here it's going to have a check mark and an option to remove it from the list. So say I want to add these 3 books. They're now on my list, and to go into the working list, I can go to show list details here on the left. Now I can see all the items in my working list. Next up, if this looks okay, I'm going to create a new saved list title. And again, it's going to give me this disclaimer. I'm going to say okay. And create list. Next, you can kind of work through these. You can remove them from the list. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select all these.
You did that part already. Yeah, you're just going to select them and then go to the bottom.
Now that they're all selected, I'm going to put them on to my list favorite dog books. Now you can see here the working list is empty, and now in my saved list I have the 3 that I moved over there. One thing to note is saved lists only appear when you're logged in. And working lists can appear when you're not logged in, but then to save it to a list, you have to log in. I'm going to go to my list that I created, the favorite dog books, and kind of show you some things you can do here. One thing that's really helpful is this bibliographic area. You can see it says brief bibliographic, but then I can change this. Say I'm doing a research project, I can go to Chicago style, which will show it in a different format, APA style format. And then with any of these, I can print, download, or email it. So say I wanted to print this for my citations, and I go to print page, it's going to print this without anything else, on the previous page. So I'm going to go back to title list. And I can also email it. Email and click email page 2, and it will email it. I'm going to go back to the list, and then say I wanted to remove amazing dogs from the list. I can just click remove, and now it's down to the these 2 items. So that's kind of how to work with lists.
Luke, can you also show adding to the list from the catalog?
Oh, sure. I'm going to go back to this search and say I wanted to add this one. You can see now it says favorite dog books is added. I want to add this, and that's been added. And now I go to my list, and you can see now I have all these 4 in here. But whoops, maybe I didn't want to add this one. I can highlight it. You can highlight or check more than one if you want, but I'm just going to remove this one. And then let's say I'm done with the list after my research project on dogs is done, and I can go here and go to delete list, and it will delete the list. So let's take a break for questions, and then we're going to go over the online account.
So if you have any questions, just pop them into the chat before we move on. Okay, let's move ahead. If any questions appear, we will still address them. Oh, okay. Can the police access your list? I believe they can only do that with a court order, with a subpoena.
A warrant.
A warrant, yeah. Thank you, Luke. After it has been deleted. That's a good question. I don't know if there's any trail of it after it's been deleted. I don't think so. But we can certainly ask about that. And in the follow-up email that Darlene sends to everyone, maybe we can address the questions that were asked that we weren't able to answer live. So let's move on. And if there are any other questions about that section, we'll pause to address them if they come in.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And next up, we're just going to show the online library account. So if we go into the test catalog here, you'll notice that we have another button here at the top that we didn't mention before, and this is the login button. Pretty self-explanatory. If your patron has a library account or a library card within your library, they have their own account that they can access within the catalog. and that's going to be really helpful for placing requests, as we saw before, but there's a few other things that they could be able to utilize this online account for as well. So if I go ahead and click the login button, it's going to bring us to a similar page that we saw before. I'm going to go ahead and type in Bobby's library card number again so that we can get into his account. So if I type into, let's see here. All right. And like I mentioned before as well, we have the ability to have our staff override password be used to get access to the patron's account. However, for the most part, patrons are usually going to have the password that they were created with, and they can be able to go from there in order to log in. So that's going to be really helpful for them. Another thing and important thing to mention as well is that if the patron does forget their password, they have the option to click this forgot your password button. And what that'll do is that it'll bring them to this screen where they can either enter in their library card number or their username, which we'll also go into in a little bit, in order to receive a password reset link so that they can be able to reset it on their own. So that'll be really helpful as well. We do have that option within Leap to be able to do it, but always remind patrons that they have access and the ability to do that as well, so they don't have to reset it through the library. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel here, and we're just going to type in Bobby's number so that we can go ahead with looking at his library account. All right, and we're just going to use, in this example for the patron again, our staff override password so we can get access to the account. I'm going to hit login, and we're greeted by this. So this is the patron's account. This is a lot of information that's going to be available here. We're going to kind of just go through all the different fields and menus that show up here. So first up, now that we're logged in, we're going to click the My Record button, and this is what's showing up by default here. This gives any pertinent information about the patron's record. So as you can see, you have the patron's name, their library card number, again, only shows the last 4 digits. In this case, it'll show if they have a username. Bobby doesn't have one, so we'll kind of go into how that can be set up. You have their home library where they're registered at, their patron code, so this will be helpful as well if they're a restricted patron or an unrestricted patron. In this case, Bobby's an unrestricted one. We have the date of the original registration, you have expiration date, and then you have their last activity date. So a lot of this information is available for you at the patron record, but this is where the staff or the patron can be able to actually see what is in their account and what information is set up for them there. First up, we have messages. We don't really use this, so we're just going to ignore this for now. Next up, we have contact information and preferences. As you can see here, these are all drop-down menus, so we can either expand them or collapse them by clicking them right here. Here in the contact information and preferences, this is where all the patrons' information is going to be. For example, you have their address information, their contact information, and then their preferences here. Going by them one by one, we have address information. The reason why this is grayed out and why they don't have the ability to edit it is if there's any change in address, the patron does have to go to the library and notify the library in order to let them know that their address has changed. The reason why we set this up is so that if a patron moves to another town, we would want to make sure that the library is notified of that, so that just in case if the patron is moving to another town within the consortium, they will now have to go to that library, or if they're out of the consortium, they wouldn't have access, or things would kind of be figured out from there in order to get that address and that account set up for them. So that'll be really helpful to remind them. Next up, we have contact information. These aren't grayed out, and these are fields that the patron can edit. So if the patron has a new email, if they have a phone number, if there's anything incorrect, maybe they want to add a phone number or add an alternate email address, they have the ability to edit that as well. So that's going to be really helpful for them in order to make sure that they have all of their contact information up to date. So that's a really important thing to remind them of as well. Next up, we have preferences. And again, based on previous sessions, we kind of mentioned that they can actually set up their preferences in the way that they want to receive certain notifications or aspects of their account. So this is where they can be able to do that. Right here, Bobby has his preference for receiving library notices as the email address, and then he has the phone number for text messages set to the phone number here, which is phone 1. We mentioned this before as well, but carrier is also here, and it's very important based on our kind of back-end systems that the patron sets up the carrier to be reminiscent of what their actual carrier is. If they don't have the right carrier, they're not going to receive text notifications correctly. So you always want to direct them to that. And with this option as well, they also have the ability to change it themselves. So if they change their phone carrier at any point while they're a library patron, they have the ability to change it on their own. E-receipts is also an option, so you can set that up as email or none as well. So if the patron wants any receipts of the transactions that are done at the library, it'll be automatically sent to their email. And then next up, which is the most important thing, we kind of mentioned this in a previous session as well, but based on security and privacy, when we create the patron record, we can't assign or set a maintain reading history option. This is where the patron would want to do that. And this is the only way that they'll be able to enable reading history on their account. The patron directly has to go into their account and click this checkbox button in order to maintain it. If I click it here, you'll notice there's a pop-up that shows a warning or kind of disclaimer about any personal data that's going to be kind of linked to the account. If they want to continue, they can go ahead and click OK. In this case, I'm just going to click cancel, but that's how they would be able to do that. Lastly, we have this preferred pickup location, and this is going to be pretty helpful as well. We have sent email notices over here. We just leave it as full HTML format. If they want to receive more descriptive notices, they can also do basic plain text. So it's based on their preferences, what they want. But going back to preferred pickup location, this is again very important. This is where the patron can be able to set their specific pickup location that it'll always default to. So we mentioned before when we were setting up a hold request, but Bobby's home library was set to Hohokus, so that's what it defaulted to. However, they still have the option to choose a different pickup location. This is going to be used just to give more efficiency when it comes to creating a hold request. So if they have a preferred pickup location, they can select that. Let's say, for example, Bobby lives in Hohokus, or as we can see, that's his home library. However, if we want to set it to South Orange because maybe he works in South Orange and has the ability to kind of pick up his items from there, you can go ahead and click South Orange. So that's going to be very helpful to let the patron know about. A huge issue that we've noticed as well is that sometimes patrons won't change their pickup location in their account if they set it another way. And this can cause confusion because it'll default the pickup location to a library that's not their home library. I believe that the easiest way to set the home library in this case is if you scroll back up, and if we click the select a branch option, what this essentially does is that it defaults to the home library. So this is essentially your default home library option. So keep that in mind when you're setting a pickup location for a patron, or let them know about that as well, so that there's not any confusion when another library shows up by default. So that's going to be very helpful to remember. Lastly, we have login menu. And if I go ahead and click that, it's going to be at the bottom here. This is where we have the ability to change the patron's username or change their password when they're in the account. So change username is a really cool option here. As we saw before, when I was logging in, I had to type in the entire library card number, which can be a little bit frustrating or take a little bit more time when it comes to just trying to get into your account. However, you do have the ability to set a username instead of your library card number so that you can just type in that username instead of having to type in that long string of numbers. So if we click the change username option and then go into the field, we can set a username from there. So in this case, for example, I can type in Bobby T as the username, and then we can go ahead and verify it from there for Bobby's account. And now every single time Bobby wants to enter the account, he won't need to use the library card number. He can use this new alias for Bobby T. And then you have the option to change the password in here as well. So this is really only going to be applicable if you already know what your password is. You most likely know what your password is on top of it because you've got access to this account already, but that's going to be really helpful to mention and remember. This is more for security purposes. Maybe patrons prefer to change their password on a 3-month basis. They have the ability to do that here. So that's going to be really important to remember as well. Once you have all your options finished and set up, you're going to go ahead and click save. I'm not going to do that right now, but these are kind of the ways that you can be able to change any sort of credentials or login information for the account. All right. If we go to the left here, this is where we can see a bunch of different fields and a bunch of different menus that we're going to be able to access. Again, we'll kind of go through it for now, but you have the patron's name here. If they have any items overdue and any fees or fines that are accrued on their account, that'll also show up here as well. But for the next menu, we're going to go ahead and click items out. So if we click the items out option, it's going to show a few different things that you can be able to do here. First off, it looks like Bobby has 2 items out that he is currently using. On the right, you can see there's a bunch of different information here. So you have the due date of the item. In this case, we have one that's due actually today, and then you have one that was due November 1st. If we go over here, you have renewals left. So there's 2 renewals on both of these items, and that's going to be helpful for the patron to know if they want to renew or keep the item out even longer, they can have that option there. They have the call number here, the library that the item is owned by, and then the format. So we mentioned the format a lot throughout our search results section, but this is just the normal book, and it can be denoted by if you hover over the mouse or you use your mouse to hover over it, it'll say book. Right now it's not showing it because of my big smiley face mouse, but this will be a good way to kind of know what material type it is as well. One thing that you can do from here is you can go to these bottom rows here, these bottom buttons. First up, I'm just going to illustrate estimating overdue fines. This is a great tool that the patron can use if they want to make sure they have an understanding of how many fines they're accruing based on if a title is late. So for example, this one was due November 1st. So maybe Bobby wants to estimate how many fines have been accrued because they didn't bring this in on the due date. So I'm going to click estimate overdue fines, and automatically it's stating here that this item already is late. So because of that, it's saying the estimated amount due is now $3.40. Another great tool that they can utilize as well is if you go to this field up here, it brings down a calendar widget, and you can use this to choose a specific date in which you want to estimate the fines for that date. So let's say in this case, Bobby again is on vacation and won't be able to bring the book back until December 21st. If we go ahead and choose December 21st as our date, it'll now show the fines that have been accrued if he still has these books out. So now his estimated amount due is $8.60 if he doesn't return it until December 21st. So a really great tool for patrons to utilize, and staff members can also use it as well to kind of communicate with the patron that these dues will start to accrue more and more and more if they don't return the item in time. So we're going to go ahead and click the close button on that. So that's going to be really helpful. Next up, just to show you, we're going to do a renewal as well. So for this situation, we're going to renew this item that's overdue. What you can do from here is you can click this checkbox next to the item. And from there, you have these options here, the buttons here, to be able to renew only the selected items or renew all of them. Note again that the renewal limit here is 2. So we still have 2 renewals left on this item. If I click the renew selected items, it's going to give me a little prompt here saying that if you renew these items, your account will be charged $3.40, considering the fact that it's late. So this is kind of a disclaimer for the patron if they want to still renew it. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And it shows us the results of this transaction. So one item was successfully renewed, and our account has been charged $3.40 for the late renewal. So if I hit back, you'll now notice here that our due date for the item that was previously overdue is now December 19th. So that's a great way for patrons to be able to renew their items on their own if they know that they can't bring it back, or a great way for them to kind of accept the fines as we just illustrated there. You'll notice here as well that the renewals have now lessened by one. So now they only have one renewal left on this item. So that's going to be really important to remember as well. Just wanted to note this too. You have the ability to renew all items, but if you click this button here, it just selects all the items within the menu. So you can use that as an option as well and just click renew selected items. Lastly, I wanted to show the more information button. You'll notice here that it shows that there's an I dash more information, and the I is going to be next to the item here. So if you want more information on a particular item, you can go ahead and click this I button, and it'll bring up this pop-up that shows more information on the item. So for example, we have the title, the author, the publisher, its format, and then a bunch of information like its barcode, call number, the library, the loaning branch that loaned the item to the patron. And then you have date of checkout, due date, and then any renewals that are left, or the renewals that are permitted, I guess. So this will be really helpful in order to make sure that the patron has all of that information on this particular title. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. Next up, we're going to go back to this left menu here and click requests. So as we were mentioning before, in terms of hold requests, patrons do have the ability to do that and kind of place hold requests on any items that they would like within the consortium. If they are an unrestricted patron, any requests that they do make will all show up here. So there's a few different things that you can do when it comes to this menu. As you can see,
So I'm just noticing that the request you tried to place didn't actually go through,
yeah.
I guess. So I don't know if Luke, you want to do a request quickly, or if Will, you want to pause and do a request quickly, just so you can show what you can do with an active request.
Gotcha. Yeah, let me do a request real quick. Or do you want to do it, Luke?
Sure, let me go do it real
Gotcha.
quick.
Thank you.
And I'll just point out while we're waiting that these two requests are canceled, so you can't do anything with them. The patron can no longer work with them at all. They will disappear after 30 days after their canceled date. So the top one will disappear a little sooner than the bottom one, but they're there for 30 days. You'll see them.
Okay, request is placed.
All right, great. So I'm gonna just reload the page really quickly. And here we go. So this is an example of a hold request that's essentially live. We again mentioned this before in previous sessions, but hold request statuses are going to be available here. This one is set to pending, which means that the library is currently processing this hold request. So that's going to be important for maybe patrons to understand so that they know the statuses of their items. They also have this here so that they can maybe ask a librarian or a staff member, hey, the status says pending. What does that mean? Does it mean I'm going to get it soon or not? So that's a great way to kind of look at that from there. And it comes to a few of the options here. I'm going to go over it real quick. First up, you have the option to change your pickup location. If we click the button, it's going to kind of let us know we have to select a specific hold request. So similar to what we saw before with items out, we're going to click the checkbox next to the hold request and then click change pickup location. This is available for the patron if they notice that, hey, in this case, Bobby set the pickup library to Ho-Hocus because that's its home library. But maybe he wants to pick it up at South Orange, again, maybe because he works there. So the patron has the ability to change that pickup location. If we go ahead and click this drop-down menu and then select South Orange from here, that way we can go ahead and hit submit once everything is set up. And now the pickup library is going to be changed for that particular hold request. You'll notice here that the status is now changed from pending to active because now it's a point of making sure that the library that received that hold request can now process it, so they can have it be ready for the patron to pick up at that library. So that's going to be really helpful to remember when it comes to patrons who change their pickup location at any given time. Next up, if I go ahead and click this hold request again, the patron does have the option to either suspend a hold request or reactivate it. And I'll kind of go over that now. When we go over here, we can click suspend/reactivate selected. If I click suspend, we see here that the status is set to active. If I press the button here now, we can now create a new activation date for when it's going to be active again. So this goes back to what we were mentioning before when we were placing a hold request. If a patron's not available to pick up that item, they can suspend the hold request, create a new activation date for when they're available, and then be able to pick it up at a later date. So this is active right now since we made it today for on November 21st. I'm just going to change this to 12/21/2023, so next month. And then if I hit submit, it's going to say that the hold request has been changed and the activation date is set to December 21st. Now I'm going to click OK, and we can notice now that the status is set to inactive. The reason why it's inactive is because, again, the patron won't be able to get it until December 21st, or it won't be processed until December 21st. So that's going to be a really important thing to remember from there. If we want to reactivate the hold request, however, let's say the patron is going to be able to get the item sooner, we can click here, hit suspend/reactivate again, and then now we can set up a new activation date. So let's say that they made a mistake and they realized, hey, I can probably get it sooner, so like around today or in the next week. We're going to go ahead and type in 11/21/2023 now. Hit the submit button. The item, it'll now say that the hold request has been reactivated because it reached that day. And if we hit OK, you'll see now the status is set to active. So that's going to be really helpful for patrons that want to change the activation date for a specific hold request if they know they're not going to be available to pick it up. Next up, we have
I just want
cancel.
to point out, Will, sorry, I want to be sure that it's clear the distinction between pending and active. An active hold request means that it will eventually become pending once a copy becomes available at a library to pull from, but there isn't one at the moment. So pending actually means that it's on a library's pick list. So you might think that pending is like not as high up on the list sort of as active, but it's actually the opposite. Pending is closer to being filled than active, because pending is on a library's pick list, and that probably means they're going to pull it soon and send it.
Yep. Okay. So in this case, since we have this active hold request, I just wanted to show this really quickly as well. If we click the checkbox next to it, we can also have the ability to cancel a hold request. So similar to these hold requests that we have here, if the patron no longer wants the title anymore, they can cancel the hold request completely. So if we click this button here and then click cancel selected, it'll give us a prompt or a pop-up saying, are you sure that you want to cancel the following requests? This is important so you can be able to cancel any request that you need to, that you don't want anymore. And then from there, we're going to hit submit. And you'll notice here now that the status of the item is now set to canceled. So that's going to be important to remember for the patron to know if there's this particular item that they don't want anymore, that they have the hold request set for, but it's not going to work out anymore, they would be able to do that from there and cancel it. Lastly, when it comes to this menu, we have still this more information option. So if the patron wants any information on the hold request, they can click this I button, and then from there they can get more information on it. So the title, format, the status of it. So you can see here, this one was canceled yesterday, November 20th. The date placed was November 20th, and the activation date was November 20th again. You have your expiration date, which is something we didn't get to mention before, but an expiration date will automatically be applied to a hold request for a year. So if the item doesn't come to the patron or isn't available for pickup for the patron by November 19th, 2024, it'll automatically cancel itself and it'll expire. So that's really going to be important to remember. Your pickup library in this case is Ho-Hocus, and then the process is it's looking for the first available copy within the consortium that will be able to fulfill the request. So keep that in mind from there. That you have all this information essentially to kind of dig deeper into the hold request from there. All right. Next up, if we go back again to the left here, we can look at the next menu, which is fines and fees. This kind of gives a great explanation of what the fines and fees that have been accrued on the account will be. So first off, we have this $3 fine for printing, and this was a charge type. We also have this one that we just did before, which is because we did a renewal for a late or overdue item. This applied the $3.40 charge as well. And it shows the reason here. So that's going to be really helpful for the patron to kind of narrow down and see why they're getting charged and what their fines are from that point. When it comes to what they can do here, you again have that I button next to each fine. So if you want to click it and get more details on why this happened, you can go ahead and do that. So in this case, this is an overdue item, and it shows the item's barcode, the title, the due date that it was originally set for, that kind of gives a explanation to why it's late or why the patron had this overdue item, and it just gives kind of general information from that point as well. If we even go to this printing option, since this was just a normal charge that was most likely applied by a staff member at the library, it doesn't give too much information, but all the patron really needs to know is that the amount of the fine is $3. It shows the reasoning, and then it shows the date that the charge was applied on, so November 3rd. So that's going to be really helpful for the patron to look at as well. Next up, and lastly, actually, we have the pay fines now as well. So this is a very important thing to kind of remind patrons as well. This is essentially where they can be able to pay for their fines online. There's a few options that we have available for patrons to be able to pay with. However, using a credit card to pay online kind of is the most, I guess, simple option in terms of our back-end needs and for your library as well. Being able to pay by the credit card will automatically disperse the specific money, or like will disperse the specific money to the owning library based on if the item is there for it, or is theirs or not. We kind of do this based on our own reporting and based on our own process of giving quarterly payments to libraries so that we can reimburse them. Kind of to go back on that, we collect all of the money through the credit cards over a quarter. Then we section off the particular money that we need to give her to a specific library by the end of the quarter, and then a check is given to them. So this will be a little bit more easier if the patron has having trouble trying to write a check, maybe to a library that's not yours because the item is owned by that library and so forth. So when it comes to this, all you would need to do is go into the fines and fees menu, click pay fines now, and it's going to ask me to pay for it. Let's select a particular fine that I want. We're going to do all, so I'm just going to click this top checkbox here. So it'll select everything. I'm going to click pay fines now, and it's going to give us a bunch of information here. So you have payment processing fees. A caveat of paying online is there is a 50-cent processing fee on every single online payment you make. So that's going to be really important to remind patrons. If they do pay it in cash or within a check, they just have to pay for the fine or fee. If they do it online, then you know that you have the efficiency and the ease of being able to pay it on your credit card without needing to go to the library, but you do have to pay that processing fee. If I click accept here, it's going to again kind of show a bunch of the different fines that are going to be available. And then it's saying here that it's going to be redirecting the patron to SmartPay, which is our internal processing system for fines and fees so that we can have that information and have those payments be sent to us. I'm not going to go ahead and click continue in this case, but for now, that's where you would be, that's how the patient would kind of be redirected from there. SmartPay is just going to ask them for a bunch of their information, like their credit card information and their name, standard practices when paying for something online. And from there, they'll be able to process everything accordingly. So I'm going to go ahead and click back here. And we're going to return back here. But that's how they would essentially pay for their fines, and that's why it's really important to note that they can be able to do this. All right. Next up, we have on the left again, we have claimed and lost. If we click this section here, this is going to list all of the different items that have either a claim saying that they never had it, or maybe they returned it, but it's saying that it's not, that it's like still out, or that it's missing on their account. Excuse me. And it'll show any items that they've lost as well. So that's going to all show up here. And in this case, we have this book that says that they claim that they never had it, even though the item is essentially tied to their account and it's saying that they're out. So that's really important to kind of have that for the patron so that they can track any items that they claim that they never had, claim that they brought in, or that they lost. With this case, and there's not really much you can do, but you can click this I button to get more information on the item that has either been claimed lost, or has been claimed never had, in this case. So we can look at the information on the item, look at the title, the author, the publisher, the assigned branch of the item, the loaning branch, which is this office and trust branch, and then more information as well, considering the checkout date, the due date, and the claim in which in terms it was set. So that's going to be really important to remember from there. I'm going to close out of here. We do have estimate overdue fines, so that'll be helpful as well. It's similar to the tool that we just saw before. But let's say, for example, maybe the patron found the item, then it was lost, and it ended up being more overdue. They can use this tool to kind of determine how much the fine is going to be. So that's going to be really helpful for the patron to have as well as an option. All right. Next up, we have saved searches. So previously, we just went over this before, but Luke just created a saved search for Bobby's dog book search. So any saved searches that are available, they can be able to go here and manage it. So if they don't want this saved searched anymore, they can delete the selected search, or they can delete all the saved searches if they have multiples of them. But this is where they can be able to look at that, manage it, look at the frequency in terms of which it's going to send that saved search. It's going to show when it was last run, any results that were kind of coming from that saved search, and any notifications that are going to be sent to an email in this case. And it even shows the email in which it's going to send that saved search notification to. So that's going to be very, very helpful. And it'll be great for any of those power user patrons that have saved searches and have a bunch of them there listed for them in their account. Lastly, we have the My Lists option.
So you can go ahead and delete that save search. We don't need it anymore.
Oh, gotcha. So just to kind of show how to delete it, we're going to click the checkbox next to it, and then we can either click delete selected search or delete all searches. We're just going to press this one. It's going to give us a prompt saying, do you want to delete the following served search? I'm going to say yes. And now we don't have any more saved searches. So that's going to be really helpful for patrons that want to kind of organize their account more and organize the multitude of saved searches that they could have. Next up, we have the My List section. So this is a separate section from my account. And if you want to have access to any of your saved title lists, you can go over here and do that. You could even also create a new saved list. This is again going to give a little prompt saying that personal data on the Patron account is going to be shown here. So again, just gives them a prompt saying, do you want to have that information there? From there, you can click OK, and then they can go through the process of creating a saved list or saved title list like we've mentioned before with Luke showing that. So that'll be helpful as well. It kind of keeps everything all in one place at that point. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. And then you have your working list and all the different options here to create a new saved list. So from that point, the last thing I'm going to show is logging out. Pretty self-explanatory. If the patron is done with the account, they can go ahead and click the log out button. And what that essentially does is that it logs them out of the account. One thing to note here is that if the patron doesn't have any activity on the account, it'll automatically log them out as well after a few minutes. So this will be really helpful for those patrons that just forget to log out of their account when they're at the library, for example, looking for something, that's going to be really, really helpful for that. So keep that in mind. If you see an account that's open, it'll most likely log out on its own. But we want to also just direct patrons to log out as much as they can if they have the account open. So I'm going to click log out here, and now we're out of Bobby Tarantino's account. All right. With that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Luke, and he's going to explain applying for a library card online. But before we continue, does anybody have any questions?
Let's take a minute to see if we have any questions in the chat. If you have any, just type them into the chat when you get a chance. Okay, let's move ahead, and if we see any questions pop up, we'll address them as we can, but Luke, you can go ahead and continue.
Okay, so like Will said, now we're going to look at how to apply for an online library card. So,
Okay, 1 second, we have a question. If the patron pays fines from different libraries online, who gets the money? The owning library of those items gets the money. So like Will said, initially the money all goes into a Buckles Wide account that the office maintains. And then Christina, our business manager, disperses the quarterly checks each quarter for each library. And it's going to basically give the money to the owning library. So even if they pay a bunch of fines from different libraries online and they happen to be a South Orange patron, it's actually going to send that money to the owning library of the items they're paying for, not South Orange just because they're a South Orange patron.
okay, so now we're going to go over how to apply for an online library card. So the way online library cards work, and we went over this briefly during CERC training, is there's online cards that patrons can apply for online, and it will email them a temporary library card number. And that number isn't a normal barcode. It's starts with PAC reg, and that they expire after a month. So it's a way for patrons to kind of get started, be able to access e-content, and then within that month, they need to go into the library, provide proof of residency, and get a full privileged library card. So the way you can apply for an online card is the various ways. We have links to it, different sections. You can see at the top, we have the little light blue banner here, immediate access to e-content available via online registration in the link. And then we also, under my account, we have login or apply for a card. So when you click here, it's going to bring you to the login screen. And then if you're not already a card holder, it will say tap here to apply for a card. We're going to click that. And then this pop-up window disclaimer comes up dealing with COPA compliance, meaning that you have to be 13 or older in order to do this. I'm going to say okay. Next up, we have a drop-down where you can select the library and the zip code. So how this works is on the back end, there is a zip code verification check. So if the library and the zip code don't match, they won't be able to continue the application. So for example, here, we're going to go to South Orange, and I'm going to enter Bloomfield zip code, and a warning comes up saying you do not belong to the postal code for the selected library. So it has to be a 07079 zip code. I'm going to hit continue, and now we have the registration page. It's important to note anything with a red asterisk is required. And then this creates the account and populates the patron record. So I'm just going to go through as a test. Say we're Tommy Tarantino, they want Main Street. South Orange is already selected. And then finally, select a password. Okay, then we have a confirmation page saying thanks for applying the library card, and then please check your email for the temporary card number. So at the same time, the PAC Reg account is entered into the database, and it will be cleared out at the end of the month. The goal here is really to get the patrons started instantly, and then get them into the library to get a full service card, with full privileges and everything. So that's about it for applying for a card. Are there any questions?
Let's take a minute and just see if anyone chats in any questions. And then we'll move ahead with Will's next part. And we didn't mention this, but I believe we did mention it in circulation training that the SORA circ email, soracirc@buckles.org, does get an email notification when these cards are created. So you are going to be able to monitor them and remove any that are erroneous, that, sometimes people try to pull a fast one and, put a business address as their home address just to get a card in your town. But yeah, you can monitor that email account and make sure that everything's legit on your end. I see the question, can parents apply for children under 13 online? That's a good question. They certainly could. And I think they have been during COVID. It was definitely happening. I think they have been doing it. But what the key here is when they come in, of course, the child has to be there with them. I guess it depends on the library's rules, but from what I understand, the way libraries work, the individual has to be there to finalize the card, not just the parent. But if you have different rules at your library, and the parent is allowed to create the card for the child without the child being there, that's up to you. But when they come in, they would have to finalize it. And if you have the child print or sign their name as well on your registration cards, if you still keep registration cards, some libraries don't, then you would need them to come in as well. The parent couldn't just do it themselves. But certainly online, there's no way to verify whether the child is doing it themselves or the parent is doing it for the child. And I do believe we have parents doing it for children. You'll just sometimes see, 5 registrations at once for the same address with the same last name, and it's a whole family. It's, kids and parents. All right, I think we're good to go. If any questions come in, we'll certainly address them at that point. So I'll hand it over to you.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So the next section that we just wanted to let you guys know about is the option to access Buckles member library information. And in order to do that, you'll notice here that there's a tab that says library info. If we go ahead and click that, we have a few different options here that we're just going to go down the list of to show you all the information that the patron can look up on a particular library or within the entire consortium. So first off, when it comes to library info, if I click hours, holidays, and more, and we go ahead and click that, it's going to show the library that's highlighted for if there was one selected. So currently we have South Orange collected, and it shows up here with all the information of the library. So we have the director, the contact information, their address, any social media links, and then the main kind of star of the show as well, which is the library hours. So we can see if a patron's, if anything is open. If a library has summer hours, it's going to show up here. And if we scroll down, you'll see that there's a bunch of holiday closings here as well. We only have the next couple of holiday closings, but as more and more comes in for you guys, we'll have that available so that the patron will know that, hey, on December 24th, they're going to be closed. So that's going to be really helpful to look at. We also have a separate tab for children's area. We know that you guys have that separate children's area in the library. So there's other hours for that as well. And that's going to be really important for the patron to look at. If they're not going to only access the main library, they may access something else from the library. So that's going to be a really helpful tool for any patron that just wants to know if the library is open. If we go back, however, I just want to show this really quickly. But if the patron is on the default Buckles library page or catalog page without any library selected, and then we click library info and hours, holidays, and more, then what that'll do is that instead of selecting a particular library or highlighting a particular library, it will, once this finishes loading up, show a list of the different libraries within the consortium. So this can be even helpful as well for patrons that want to know the hours of other libraries. Let's say South Orange is closed at some point, but maybe West Orange is open or Maplewood is open. They can go ahead and look through this list, click the particular library. In this case, we're going to choose Maplewood, and then it'll give a similar information page with all the information of the library, including a picture, their director, contact information, and then the hours, and then their summer hours. This is kind of what will the holiday closings will look like once everything is kind of filled in here. And as you can see, the list can get really long, but it's going to be really helpful for patrons to know, hey, on February 12th for Lincoln's birthday, they're still going to be open, but President's Day, they're not going to be. So that's going to be a helpful tool to use for patrons as well. All right. So I'm just going to go back to the catalog again. And we're going to go to our next section, which is checking closing alerts. This is going to be really helpful for libraries that are sending out any specific closing alerts. Let's say, for example, it snows on a particular day, and because of the fact that it's snowing, you have to close your library. That will be shown here. So as I scroll through this list, you'll notice that there's certain libraries that are saying that they're closed because, for example, for construction, or again, there's a delayed opening because the water shut off happened at our library. This is actually going to be really helpful for your library, considering the fact that you guys are going to be going through maintenance with your location. So this is where patrons can be able to look at that and see, hey, this location is closed because of this reason, and that's the reason for why I can't come. That's going to be something to look out for and to let patrons know about, because it not only goes over closings, but like I said, there's delayed openings and there's early closings, and it'll usually note that within the notes here. So keep that in mind. That's going to be really helpful. We go back here. We're going to go now to the what's new option. So we see here that it says what's new beta. And you'll see that this brings you to a different page with a few different things that we can look at here. First off, you have this all libraries drop-down menu here. And what this means is that you can choose a category from the new titles here. What this essentially is used for is to make sure that patrons can look at any new books, videos, recordings, large prints, any material that's new at their library. They'll have the ability to go here and see the new items that are available at their library. So right now the drop-down menu is set to all libraries. So if I click new books here, it's going to show all of the different books that are new throughout the consortium. So if we scroll down, you'll see more and more and more of it. If we go back to it, however, you can also select a specific library. So let's say a patron from South Orange wants to look at the South Orange's new library books. You can go ahead and select the South Orange Public Library option, and then you would click new books here, new videos here, and then it'll show up. So as you can see, these are the new books that are available within our test server for South Orange, and they'll all show up here. So patrons that want to understand and know what the newest books that are available at their library are, they can always go here to get a quick summary of everything there. Newness is calculated by the bib record creation date. So it's not going to be the item's first available date. So keep that in mind. But as they're being created through cataloging, that'll show up there. And that's going to be really helpful for, again, patrons to know what's coming and what's new. It may not be available, but they'll have an understanding of what's going to be new there. All right, next up, I'm just going to go here and then we're going to click suggest the title. This just brings you to a prompt here to say if you want to recommend the title, please contact your local library. Patrons have the ability to do that from there. If I click the contact button, they'll be able to have some information to be able to contact their library. It brings them back to that similar list where they can look for their library. In this case, let's say they want to recommend a new book to South Orange. We can go ahead and scroll down, go to South Orange's section, and we can click into it to get further information like we saw before. Or we can just use the phone number that's available here or the email address to contact them and let them know, hey, I want to recommend this title to your library. So keep that in mind. That's a really good option for patrons to have more of a relationship with their library and kind of help out with getting particular materials that might be interesting and helpful to the wider general public. I'm just going to go back here. There's this Ask Us option as well. If we click this Ask Us option, it's going to ask us to log in. So I'm going to, in this case, just to give you an example of it, I'm just going to use my personal account. But what this does is that you'll see here that you have all of the patrons' information automatically filling up here. And then you have a what is your question field where the patron can fill in their information there. This is going to be important for any patrons that have any certain questions or queries about what's going on within their library. Once they type in their question within the field, it'll forward whatever they've sent in here into an email to your circ email. So this will be sent to essentially SORA circ at gmail.com, where you can be able to answer them from there and help them with any issues that they have.
It's soracirc@buckles.org, not at gmail.com.
Sorry, at buckles.org. Sorry. So that'll be there for them to be able to for you guys to be able to access that and help them with that. They even have a field here for response needed by. So if there's anything that they really need answered quickly, that'll be sent there as well, so that you can see the need for their question to be answered as quickly as possible. It defaults to a week automatically, but again, they can change that. All right, I'm just going to log out here. Okay, and the last thing that we're just going to go over within this is the policies section. So if we click the policies button right here, you'll see here that we have all the different questions, almost like a Q&A of the different policies that we have that'll be helpful for patrons to look at. So like, for example, we have what is Buckles? Is it easy to get a library card? And then it kind of goes into explaining that. How do I borrow materials? What can I borrow from the library? A bunch of different questions here. So this can be really helpful if a patron that's new to the Buckles Consortium has any questions of all the inner workings of how this consortium works. You can just send them to the policies page and they'll get a good amount of information just from this page on how everything will be working and how they'll have access to a bunch of the different materials there. It even shows things like, how do I get a password, and is my library card good outside the Buckle system? It notes here that you can actually borrow materials from Bergen Community College. So that's something that's really cool and important to just remind patrons of, because even patrons that have been at the library for a long time may not even know these policies. So a great option for giving information to particular patrons. With that being said, that's it for library info. I'm going to pass it off to Luke, and he's going to talk about accessing Buckle's databases. But does anybody have any questions before we move on?
Let's give them a minute to type into the chat if they have any questions before we move on. Okay, not seeing anything coming up in the chat. If anything pops up, we'll certainly address it. So we'll see. Okay. Question, is the renewal automatically and does the patron get notified? Yes, we do have automatic renewals in Polaris. And the patron gets an email if they have an email address on file. Even if their notification method is not set to email, it does do those messages regardless, as long as there's an email on file. It does send a message saying these items were auto-renewed and these other items are still due if there are other items on the card that were not auto-renewed that are due at a different time. Hopefully that covers that question. So I think we can move on, and I'll just keep an eye out for any future questions.
Okay, so the last two sections we're going to cover will be third-party resources, and then we're going to look at help resources. So there's third-party databases that we have access to. You can see here there's a list of topics. So I can go into databases this way, or I can just go into the full EBSCOhost database and go to topics from there. But there's some important things to point out in terms of how your patrons will be able to access the databases. So if they're on a Buckles network, so say they're on a computer in South Orange, there's no login needed because it's registering the network. But if they're on an external network, say like a home Wi-Fi, or like Starbucks Wi-Fi or whatever, then they're going to have to log in with their library card number. And then a few of these databases, like Heritage Quest, will use geolocation based on your IP address to determine if you can access it or not. So I'm just going to quickly go in here and show you some examples of these databases. So if I go into business, then it's going to give us these four. And whenever I get to the database, it's going to open in a new tab up here. And I can kind of look at the search here, close it, and go back to where I was in the directory. So I'm going to go back to home and go to kids database, and say we wanted to go into novelist K through 8. It's going to open that new tab, connect, and when you connect to the databases, it will say Bergen County Cooperative Library System up in the top right. So now we're in novelist K through 8. And then say I want to close this, it'll go back to the directory. And if I want to go to the EBSCO main page, I can click here and it's going to open a new tab again. And then I can go in and select different databases to search. So I can select more than one and do a search that way. So that's just it for the databases. Just remember, it will need to verify that the patron has access either through the library card or through the IP or network. So the last thing we want to cover, we're right at time, so this is perfect timing at the end, is help resources. So if I click the more menu in the last part here on the right, you'll see this help dropdown. And when I click help, it will give me this menu of kind of all the things we went through. Everything from, quick search to getting started down to making requests and setting up an account. And if I click into any of these, so say I want to click into set up new account, a window will pop up explaining step-by-step how to do it. And go through it in a lot of detail. Now, it is a little hard to see this menu this way. So if you want, you can go down to the bottom and click all topics, and then it's going to bring you into a separate page where all the topics are here. So say I wanted more info on fines and fees, I go here and it will do the same pop-up explaining how it works and the steps to pay your fees online. That's about it. We're right at time at 12, so if there are any questions to end, we'll open it up.
All right, if you have any more questions, you can certainly type them into the chat. I am going to just quickly also unmute everyone if you wanted to ask any questions live. It's your call.
Are the fines and fees set by the local system, or are they individual? Or individual library policies?
The fines and sorry?
I was curious as to whether the fines and fees are system-wide or are they individual according to the library?
They are individual. According to the library. In your item records, there's a drop down for fine information, and each different type of item is going to have a different type of fine, or maybe you guys have selected one type of fine for all your materials. It's whatever you've done in your item record.
But if one of our patrons takes out a book from the local library that has a different fine fee, they're responsible for that library's fine schedule, right?
Yeah, it would go
by the library.
According to per library, according to what their item says in its record. Yep. And there are some libraries that are fine free already, several actually. So some will incur no fines.
Thanks. Margaret, can you see, it says that there are 3 attendees. Us in the meeting room, that we are a bunch here, but 2 others I cannot see. I tried, I cannot see anybody else. No. It's
Okay.
not the panelists, yeah.
I see Erica, Nishaya, and Sophia.
Okay. Say, so, we are sitting here, many people together, so. I just wanted to give you the names of the words and I didn't want to miss it. Oh, I noticed when a book is on reserve for somebody, does it tell them if the book is at where they are on the list, like they're number 3, or is it just say pending?
It's just going to tell them it's pending. Even when it's shipped or on hold. Well, when it's shipped or on hold, I guess there's no worry anymore about where they are on the list because they're about to get it. But yeah, when it's pending, that means that they're also about to get it. It's when it's active that you kind of are sure where they are on the list, right? and it doesn't tell them. And it also doesn't tell you in the catalog before you place the request, how many people might have it on hold. So that would be information that you would have only. But I do caution giving out that information without a disclaimer, because that number's not always accurate because of the way that the hold requests are filled in our system. It does prioritize items to go to their own library's patrons first. So you could see that someone is next on the list, but if somebody from that item's library puts a hold, even if it's after you, it's going to go to them first. So you're actually going to be second.
Is that all items, just new items?
Sorry?
I thought I read somewhere that for new items, it goes to the home library, but does that agree to all items?
So that's all items. That is, that whole logic applies to all items. So on the flip side, if your patron's number 100 on the list, but there's no other South Orange patrons, and you own that item, they're actually going to bump right up to number 1 for your item. So the numbers on the list are not 100% accurate, and you do want to explain that to a patron rather than just tell them they're, you know, number 20 or number 50 or whatever on the list.
Thank you, Margaret.
You're welcome. And you will send me the attendance, Lindita? Yes, okay, great. I'm going to stop the recording now. I think we've covered just about everything. But I do want to say before we go that if there are any questions about anything we've talked about, we are here to answer your questions always. So just send in a ticket and ask us, and we'll definitely get back to you. And then both recordings will be shared with everyone. Darlene's going to send follow-up emails, so you'll get that information.